Hi everyone, it's Nick. Welcome back to my channel. Okay, in this video today, we are going to be talking about the biggest, most controversial interior design debates and where I fall on this issue. I'm gonna tell you what I think, which I never do on this channel. So we're really gonna dive deep and I'm gonna actually share my opinion for once. These are the biggest debates, okay? They're debated for a reason. So a lot of them are gonna be it depends. I'm just gonna spoil that for you, but let's get going and see what the biggest debates are in interior design. Okay, so fall is definitely firmly upon us and I don't know about you, but it's been really busy between making extra content because I'm doing like a couple of videos a week now. I'm racing around, doing my haircuts. I've got my groceries. I go do my Costco runs because you know I love the Costco, and also just regular gym sessions that I'm doing all the time. Like it's a lot, and it all adds up, right? And so I want to thank today's sponsor, Upside, because what they do is they provide real, actual cash back for everyday purchases that you're already doing. So whether that's groceries or restaurants, whatever, they've got it covered. They do have over 100,000 different places that are on Upside, and you get real, actual cash back. Okay, there's no loyalty program, whatever. There's no points, there's nothing weird. And users are earning about 3 times more cash back than if they were using a loyalty program or credit card rewards or something like that. For me, it's a no-brainer. It's stuff you're already purchasing, so why not just get a little bit cash back, especially in this economy? Upside has given back $1 billion to its users. To find out how much you could earn, download the free Upside app and use promo code nicklewis to get an extra $10 cash back on your first restaurant or grocery purchase. Or scan the QR code here to claim your offer. Thank you, Upside, for sponsoring this video. Now let's get back to it. Okay, first up is going to be open versus closed shelving. Which is better, what to do? I have well documented my opinion on this channel. That was a lie in the intro, by the way, in case you didn't know. If you're new here, I always share my opinion, and particularly on open shelving. Okay, so the debate goes that it is, which one's better? I love all open shelving, or I like closed shelving, or I hate it, or blah, 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 blah. It gets people fired up, including me. Here's my stance. They're good for different reasons, but I'm going to I'm gonna lean more towards closed. And that's just because that if your space is, everything is open, you have a lot of crap and you need to put it places, and you need it because it's useful, but you don't want to display it because then it makes your place feel really cluttered and overwhelming and not particularly comfortable or aesthetically pleasing. And you might not care about aesthetics, but you do because you don't think you do, but you do because you live there. And like, if you didn't care about what your home looked like, A, why you're on this channel, and B, then go live in a prison for all I care, because you know, they don't care about aesthetics there, right? Like, it does matter, and how it feels does matter. And when you have too much open shelving and too much clutter for all of your junk, it does matter, and it affects the mood and the practicality and the functionality of the space. So I would say that pick your moments when it comes to open shelving. That is my opinion. Pick your moments. If you want a little bit of open shelving on the side of an island for your little cute little cookbooks, that's fine. If you want it in a bar to display some of your barware, your glassware, your nice stuff that actually you want to display, maybe it's functional, but also potentially decor, or functional items doubling as decor because they look nice, then feel free to use open shelving for that. But because those cookbooks are practical, because you're gonna cook out of them, but they're also nice. They also are nice to look at, and they bring you joy, and you like so that's fun too, right? So that's where open shelving is good. The problem is that people overcommit. They do too much. They've got these bookcases that go on for years, and then they just fill it full of a bunch of, like, I don't know, a mug you bought at Disneyland or something. And it's like, maybe you love that mug. Maybe it's your favorite tea mug, but does it need to be on display for the world to see all the time? That's up to you. I'm thinking no. So I think that open shelving is great in small doses. Pick your moments. Closed shelving is always a good idea. In fact, you probably don't have enough closed shelving. Nobody ever makes enough of it. They don't have enough of it because it's great, because the fantabulous thing called doors cover all that junk so that people don't have to look at it. Your place is gonna feel lighter. It's gonna feel more interesting. It's gonna feel like more curated. It's just gonna be, it's just gonna feel like you're not drowning in a maximalist hellscape of, you know, all of your stuff and all your life's belongings. You know, you're not drowning in them every night. And so closed shelving is really awesome for that. So my stance is that both are fine, but I do think that a little bit of open shelving is a great idea. Too much, and it's a problem. Okay, next controversial debate in interior design is gonna be TV over the fireplace. TV over the fireplace is something that always gets people fired up, maybe even more than open shelving, to be honest. And here's my stance on it. If you have a large enough room, and if you're sitting far enough back from your television so that the angle, if you will, for you to be looking at your television is reasonable, as in like pretty low, then I think it can be fine. The problem is that most people don't have fireplaces that are low enough to put a TV above it and have it be a reasonable height. Because, you know, you got like one of those, if you got a fireplace that's like this, and then you put a TV, it's fine. But if you got a fireplace like this, and then you got a TV up it, now you're stupid. So you got gotta be really careful, kind of like pick your moments there, right? Like work with the space that you have, not with the space that you want. So if your fireplace is too tall, then your TV is way too tall and it's way too high and it's just not gonna work. So I would say that you don't have to do it. I do think it's a great option for people to put TVs, you know, behind millwork, to mount it on a different wall, to create a different focal point, like to have it, you know, or maybe in a cabinet system or whatever, or just have a television, because you just have a television and maybe you pick a different wall and you just put it there. But I do think I understand why people like them, because they do create one central focal point for the room. You know, you've got the fireplace and then you got the TV stacked over top of it. And so that can be a really great look to just have everything sort of stacked in one area, creating a really nice focal point for the room. So I do understand how it can make sense for people. But again, that's really going to depend on the height. If it's too high because your fireplace is too high, sorry, you just don't get to do it because it looks silly and you're gonna strain your neck and it just looks dumb. So I would say if you have the right room and it's big enough, because again, that's gonna determine a little bit of the angle as well as the height of the fireplace, then it might make sense, but it might not make sense depending. So I think for most people, it doesn't make sense because the fireplace is too high and the room is too small. But if you have a really large room and a really low fireplace, it can work. You just gotta work with what you got. Okay, next debate is gonna be accent walls, stylish or dated? I'm going to personally say that instead of accent walls, it's about a focal point for the room, right? Like when you walk into a room, what is the wall that is going to be the one that you want people to focus in on, right? In the bedroom, it's obvious. It's probably gonna be where the bed is, unless you got a big giant window, which most people don't, but it's probably gonna be the bed, right? So that's gonna be your focal point when you walk in the room. The same goes if you're gonna go into a living room, what's the focal point? If you got a fireplace, that's probably gonna be it. It could be the television, could be whatever. If you want to make that a focus, then possibly working with like a bedroom, for example, or again, the living room, it might make sense to wallpaper it. It might make sense to maybe paint it or do some moldings or do something that is going to maybe make it a little bit more interesting and create that focal point. Personally, I love for when people just commit and just wallpaper the whole room. For example, in my old bedroom, I did that. I put just the wallpaper on the back. And if I look back on it, I was probably scared to just wallpaper the whole room because the wallpaper was so dark. I should have just committed. I should have just committed and done the whole thing. But I was nervous, and so I just did the one wall. But I did the right wall. I did the focal point, right? That's what you probably should do. The problem with accent walls is that people pick really random, stupid walls to make accent walls. And that is where it really just doesn't make sense. People just kind of pick a random wall and they go, I need an accent wall, which you definitely do not, and pick it and then paint it, you know, mustard yellow. And for that, I think that that's a little bit weird, right? And I also think that overall, again, kind of with the wallpaper, I just want to write this, you know, let this be clear. You're probably better off, whatever you choose to do for the accent wall, you're probably better off committing to the whole space. So again, wallpaper the whole room. If you're gonna put moldings on all areas of the room, right? Don't just pick one and then put like all these geometric moldings on top or whatever. I just think that starts to look a little bit weird. I think you're better off trying to do the whole room, if it makes sense. Obviously it depends on the wall treatment. And if you're like, yes, but I don't want my entire room being mustard yellow, then maybe you might not want to choose mustard yellow. Maybe it's just not for you. So in conclusion, I would say that a focal point is a wonderful thing, and that is a part of interior design to create focus in the room so that people know where to draw their eye. I also think though that accent walls, which is picking a bunch of weird walls and doing something crazy with it, that is not great and that is dated. Okay, next up is gonna be matching furniture sets. Are they boring or is it like a really fun, polished, coordinated, cohesive look? I see what you were trying to do. You thought that it was like, oh, let's go really cohesive by using the same thing kind of over and over again. I would say that the problem with matching, the problem is that the woman at Ashley Furniture convinced you to buy 5 pieces of furniture instead of 1. That's really the problem. That's why you did it. But I would say that when talking about repetition, which is an important design concept, right? That's where we develop patterns. That's where you have like the same thing being done over and over. You repeat things, you repeat elements over and over in a space. It can look beautiful. It can look wonderful. Repetition is a good thing. But I would say that it generally makes sense to repeat the same item that has the same functional use in the space, not necessarily the exact same item in multiple different pieces. For example, a dining chair. Do you need 6, if you have 6 dining chairs, do you need 6 different dining chairs or are you fine with 6 dining chairs? 6 dining chairs is fine. You can use the same one, you can repeat it 6 different times. We intuitively know that to be true. Why? Because it provides the same functional use. That's why, because it's the same piece of furniture, right? If you are, let's say you go to a hair salon and they have like 6 different chairs all lined up, right? Does it make sense to use the same same chair? Yes, because it's providing the same functional use. You're repeating these things over and over again. You might repeat the same stool in your gym or something, in a gym locker room or something, right? You might see the same table repeated over and over in a table. Do you get the idea? When it's the same use over and over, it makes sense. The problem with furniture sets is that they're not the same thing. You just copy pasted what you did in the bed with what you did in the dresser with what you did in like another dresser, and then the end tables, the nightstand. The two nightstands being the same for functional use, that's great. But when you start repeating it in all the different pieces in the bedroom, it starts to look a little bit weird, right? When you got the side chairs and the sofas and the side tables are all the same in the living room, that's not necessarily coordinated because they're not exactly the same piece. You're not repeating, you're just using the same stuff over and over. And that looks boring and it looks repetitive and not in a good way. What you really want to be looking for here, I think, is going to be like sisters, not twins. So things that are not the exact same over and over, but they look like they belong together. Maybe they're similar in color, maybe they're similar in style, they're similar in shape, they're similar in pattern, they're similar in whatever material. Like those things, so that they look like they're connected, or at least sort of connected. Like rattan can work really well with caning, for example, but they're not necessarily the exact same. That's what you're going for. It creates something that feels really tight and really coordinated and cohesive, but not boring and flat and the samey. That's what we're avoiding. Okay, next up, next design debate. Do you just pick one interior design style, or do you work different interior design styles in together? My stance on this is that yes, you should be mixing to come up with something that's a little bit more of your own personal interior design style, what you really love. And what I would say about mixing interior design styles to come up with something you love is look at all the different things that you really enjoy about different styles and look for opportunities where they are blended together and go for something like a little 80-20 rule, or something like that. That's why something like Scandinavian and Japanese Zen formed what is a very popular interior design style and has been for a few years, which is Japandi. You might have heard of it. I made a video on it 100,000 years ago. That's really great, right? Because what does Scandinavian design and Japanese design have in common? They actually have a lot of things in common. They have some things that are different. They both use fairly simple shapes, right? They both use a lot of natural materials, but the palette is usually quite different. So a Japanese style tends to have use of more like earthy reds. It might have a lot of beige and cream and things like that, but it might have like darker tones too, like espresso. Well, you got something like Scandinavian and it's usually a little bit more like you've got some black in there to anchor it, but it's usually a lot of white and a lot of gray and a lot of pale oak floors. So how do you combine those styles in really interesting ways? Well, you'll see a lot of earth tones being used, which kind of works a little bit with both. You'll see the same shapes being used, a lot of the same natural materials being used. So it sort of takes some of the elements that make sense from both and smushing them together in a really interesting way. So for you, do something similar. So if you love different aspects of traditional, but you also love Art Deco, then find ways of understand those styles, and then how can you mix them in ways that make sense for the two of them. But when you take two styles that are completely different and you just throw them in together, that's usually where people run into problems because they're just so different that there's like nothing in common with them. They're not rooted in terms of culture or place or time in history or whatever, and for that reason, it doesn't necessarily work. So I would say that for most people, what they should do is take a look at different interior design styles that are out there, recognize things that you like in both, do a little bit of research. I got lots of things on the subjects, on design styles, and figure out what you like and what you don't, and then take some of them and think, okay, where are the overlapping pieces? Why do I like what I like? Like understand, is it the shape? Is it the colors that are being used? Like, is it the palette? Is it the patterns that you see over and over again, right? And then use that to sort of create and unify something that is more signature yours. And I think that is much better off than just picking an interior design style and copy pasting, unless you just love a style, in which case, like if you're just like, no, I'm a Scandi girly and I'm that all day, in which case, great, go build yourself a Scandinavian space, go for it. I do still encourage you to put some personality and yourself in it, of course, your own personal belongings, blah, 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 but yes, I do think it's really interesting to mix interior design styles. Again, focusing on those areas where they overlap and they have in common by understanding all the different nuances of each design individually. Okay, next up on my list is gonna be all neutral homes. Are they timeless or are they boring and so done? So we're talking about we had the all gray homes and we had the all beige homes, he says with a lot of beige and brown in his background. Do I think they're timeless, or do I think that they are dead boring? I actually, I'm gonna get a lot of flack for this one. I actually think that they're fairly timeless. I actually don't hate them. Do I think they're gonna look dated? Everything looks dated. Like, there is that too, right? Like, I think, of course, if you lock yourself so closely into a particular design style of now, it's obviously gonna look dated in the future because everybody has seen it for that moment, right? So yeah, if you got into the like 2016 black and white farmhouse trend, it's starting to look pretty dated now because you really rode hard into that one style that is so locked into a particular period and everybody knows what it is. So yeah, like as styles move and change, because it's a pendulum and design moves on and it changes, yeah, it's gonna make sense, right? If you really got into a juicy couture tracksuit back in 2005, it started to look a little dated by the time you got to a little bit later, right? Because you went hard on the trend. And so I think that that's the case. Now, the all neutral homes. The reason I think that they get a little bit of a bad reputation, obviously, because they're boring and they're almond moms and the sad beige rooms and all the rest of it. I do think that, you know, color is great. And if people want to use color, I think it's fantastic. I think some people, like, you're allowed to create whatever palette you want that you can find interesting. I think people don't fully understand that. I think when you're creating an all neutral room, which isn't necessarily all beige, right? You can use different neutrals. Like, again, a Scandi space reads fairly neutral. It's a lot of white, it's a lot of gray. We use pastels and stuff, but it's quite muted. Scandinavian design, in my opinion, is timeless. So I do think that there is some room there. But again, if you're riding hard into every trend, like, I don't know, you've got a Mario Bellini sofa and boucle, that's a very specific look, okay? And for that, yeah, it's gonna maybe look a little dated in a few years, maybe already does. So, you know, how hard you ride into these trends definitely makes a difference. But neutral homes have been around for a really long time. They are, in my opinion, going to be around for a very long time. Yes, they change. Sometimes they're gray, sometimes they're beige, sometimes they're white. Pretty soon they're probably gonna be dark gray and charcoal and black and whatever. But yeah, people do love these for years to come, and I think they can be beautiful. I will probably eat my words in 5 years, but whatever. But here's the thing I will say. If you are gonna go for this look, make it interesting. If you're not gonna make it interesting through color, you're gonna try, probably, you know, you wanna create something interesting, you're probably gonna have to make it interesting in other ways, whether that's gonna be shape, whether that's going to be material, whether that's going to be in texture, right? These things will make it more interesting, even if you're not being interesting with color. So if you really love those neutrals, that's great, but you're gonna probably have to find some way to make the space feel interesting. Because if you look at it and you're like, wow, I really did a neutral home and it was really flat and boring, it may be that you chose a really basic, simple sofa and then paired it with a really basic, simple blah, 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 and there's no texture and there's nothing interesting happening in the space. If you're not going to make it interesting through color, you're gonna have to find other ways to make it interesting. And that's great, you totally can. There's lots of things that are out there. There's lots of different design. There's lots of things beyond color to make a space interesting. So I do think they get a bit of a bad reputation. It has been very much a trend for all neutral homes, especially beige, for a few years. So again, you ride hard into the trend. People are, obviously it's gonna look dated sooner rather than later. But overall though, I think they can be quite timeless. Okay, next up on my list is gonna be like formal dining rooms. What do we do with the formal dining room? Is it timeless or is it time to go? You know what I mean? Like, where are we at with the dining room? You know, it's really interesting. I think there's a YouTuber on here, Stuart Hicks, that did a really interesting video recently I saw where he was talking about the history of like the living room, parlor room, family room, like all these different rooms and sort of how they've evolved in time. And I think that a formal dining room is something, it obviously depends on the family. If you have a big family and you like to sit at your formal dining table, who am I to stop you? Then go for it. I do think though that a lot of people are using their spaces with a little bit more flexibility and also a little bit more casually than they did before. I think for a lot of people, the sit down at the dinner table at 6 p.m. when, you know, mom and dad get home from work and the kids sit there, we all sit there and talk about our day. I don't know if that's how a lot of people are practically living. And so a lot of people are more using, you know, their islands. They're using these, they're changing the islands to be a little bit more sit down friendly so that people, you know, can evolve. I've seen ones where like they take the island and then they put like basically build a banquette into it, because that's how a lot of people are choosing to live. And so, especially if people, another big mega trend is people are living in smaller spaces because real estate's getting more expensive and you're seeing larger families in smaller spaces. I'm one of four. Like my parents had 4 kids. We lived in a single family home. A lot of people now are having 1 or 2 kids, having less kids because they can't afford more. And then what are they doing? They're living in half duplexes or they're living in multiplexes or apartments, right? And having smaller spaces. You don't have the room to necessarily have a formal dining room. So I think if you have it and you love it, it and you use it, great. It's a lovely, you have a big Thanksgiving meal and all the rest of it. But I think a lot of people, when space is at a premium, families are getting smaller, I think people are realizing that that room is a dedicated space for other things. So I think houses, if you think like, oh, that's such a shame, I love the dining room, great, cool. But like our houses have changed a lot over the last 100 years, and they will continue to do so as tastes evolve and demographics change, technology changes. So do I think the dining room is dated? Not completely. I think it's a wonderful thing. If you have the space and you want to do one, then do it. But I think for a lot of people, it's just not the space practically for them that they need for their family. So I would say I'm leaning more towards, yeah, the formal dining room, whether you like it or not. I think for a lot of people is going away. Okay, next on my list is going to be open concept versus separate rooms, the closed concept, the broken whatever you want to call it, right? So how do I feel about this one? It depends. And I know you don't like that answer, but it really does. I said this in a recent video where I talked about how I was wrong because I was really harsh before, but I think that it really depends on who you are and what you want. There are advantages to both, and I think we need to acknowledge that, and disadvantages to both, absolutely. So open concept, you get to keep an eye on the kids. It's really great for parties, right? It's great for, well, depends. If you're a really messy cook, maybe not. We'll get to that. But like, it's great for circulation. It's great for having conversations. Like if I'm in the kitchen and I'm cooking and I want to sit and watch the television, I can do so because it might be able to be visible from the open concept. Talk with my partner who's sitting in the living room, right? Like you can do that. You can keep an eye on the kids. We're sitting at the island, or maybe they're sitting at the dining table and they're just right over there, right? A lot of this stuff, by having it all open, it makes a space feel bigger. You may not like that or want that, but it does. It makes a space feel bigger because you're eliminating the walls. So, you know, there's a lot of advantages there of having open concept. Now, some of the disadvantages, which are the advantages of the closed concept, is that smells can travel. So, you know, you're cooking hamburgers in the center of your kitchen and boom, the whole house smells like hamburgers, right? You've got the noises travel through open concept, mess. So if you're sitting in the living room and you made somebody a dinner and you put it in the dining room and everybody's like going between the three spaces and it's an open concept, your kitchen is going to be messy and all your guests are gonna be able to see it. A lot of people are solving that problem by building like basically a second kitchen, like you have a show kitchen and then you have a kitchen in the back. I know different cultures around the world do that because of smells, whatever, because you're cooking lots of spices and that can make practical sense. I think for most people, it does not make sense. I think it's stupid to build two kitchens, to be honest. Like you got a work kitchen and then you have like the kitchen that you have to actually like live in, and I'm like, that feels stupid. Again, like some people are living in really small spaces and the idea of having two kitchens is ridiculous for most people. So I don't know if that's really the answer to the problem. But the point is that yeah, closed concept has its advantages. Noise, smells, and you know, having your privacy, getting away from your kids, getting away, you know, that can be great. So I think in the end, who the hell knows? Open concept, closed concept, pick what you like and do that, right? Like if you love closed concept, you're probably the type of person that wants to buy like a house from 100 years ago, buy a little rickety, cute little, amazing little house to do up for yourself, and that's fantastic. If you're a person who really likes modern, you're probably more of a open concept person, and that's wonderful too. So I think in the end, I fall down on this issue as the debate will go on till the end of time. People have their clear preferences. I have mine. I actually prefer open concept. It just makes better sense for my style of living. That's not true for everybody, but that's just true for me. Might not be true for you. Closed concept, I absolutely see has its advantages, and that's why a lot of people love it. So this is a classic, straight down the middle, it depends. Okay, next up on my list is gonna be minimalism versus maximalism. Which one is better? I don't know. Well, I have my own preference again. So I'm gonna put this as there's advantages and disadvantages perhaps for both, but I would actually say this one is more of an example of the two extremes are really not good. Like people, especially on here's the thing with social media, as a person who makes their living here, weird and extreme works really well on social media. It's the downfall of society, to be honest with you, because we're all playing the same game of clicks and views, right? And so everything is about how extreme can I make this in order to get engagement so that these apps will push out my content to make more money. That's as true for a TikToker making stupid, dumb recipes where they're wasting food as it is for CNN, okay? It is the landscape of the media right now. Don't blame me, blame Mark Zuckerberg, okay? Now, from there, we have to think of why does this have to do with minimalism and maximalism? A bit of a tirade, but a bit of a tangent there. But you know, here's the deal. Minimalism at its extreme is impractical for most people. It doesn't make sense. Maximalism at its extreme is impractical and doesn't make sense for most people. Most people will fall somewhere in the middle. It's not really a one or the other, black and white. It's a world of gray in the middle, okay? So pick where you sort of fall and then go from there. It's worth noting that maximalism isn't, how can I display as much crap as I can? both styles, in my opinion, at their best are curated. It's easier to curate minimalism because there's just less stuff, but they're both curated. You should still be considerate of what am I putting in? How am I styling it? Where is it going? Is there a color palette? Is there, how am I styling everything so it all looks interesting and cohesive and all the rest of it? Those rules still apply whether you're a minimalist or a maximalist. It's about being curated, edit, and intentional. That's true for both. Now, the extremes are dumb. Personally, my opinion, like I've seen them all on social media because they work. Because again, clicks and views. But the reality is most of us live somewhere in the gray in the middle. And for you, which is really all that matters, dear viewer, is just edit. If you're a maximalist because you love it, because you just think like, I just could never be a minimalist, I have too much stuff, great. Maybe closed storage is your answer. Maybe be really careful with your open storage like I talked about earlier. All that stuff makes sense. If you're a minimalist, great. But like, just remember that like a clock has a function. Oh, unless it doesn't work because you took the batteries out years ago. Just because you like the comment section. Again, I'm chasing engagement. What can I say, you guys? Right? Those things, just because you like to look at it is a functional reason to have something in your home, right? So don't be so extreme that you live in an insane asylum, right? Like the answer is, as usual, which is unpopular on social media. It's unpopular in the media, to be honest, right now, is the answer is somewhere in the middle, which is you don't have to go to the extremes. You can just sit somewhere in the middle and edit and curate and make sure that it reflects who you are and that you're comfortable and happy and you create the mood that you're looking for in your space. Okay, and then last up, my 10th controversial debate topic is going to be, is timeless even a thing? I feel like this is a real topic du jour right now as people are talking about timeless. And I'm just gonna say, I'm not saying I started the debate, but like I did not. But like years ago in 2021, I did a video, which is one of my favorite videos I've ever done. And it's like how to make a space feel timeless. Because I noticed you all in the comment section, when I was a wee YouTuber, were saying like, I prefer a timeless space. Every time I talked about trends, people go like, I prefer timeless. And then I was like, what even is timeless? And at the time, I'm not gonna toot my own horn, but I will for a second. No one was really talking about that. Like, I feel like it was not all that it was not a big topic. And I'm not saying I invented it by any stretch, but like, then since then, there's been a lot of like, what is timeless conversations on TikTok and Instagram and YouTube. But like in 2021, like that was not really a popular topic. People were really buying into the trends and all the rest. And there was obviously a pushback from people like you, but timeless became a topic that is becoming increasingly popular over the last several years, which is a really good thing, but it does pose the question, is timeless real? My view is everything really kind of dates eventually, and I do think things come in and out of fashion, but some things, good design goes in and out of fashion. But that doesn't change the fact that it's good design. Like if it's good, it will keep coming back and it will come back over and over again. It might come back slightly differently. It might be paired with different things because everyone's like, oh, I'll just wait long enough and the trend will come back. Yeah, but it comes back differently, right? Subway tile has come in and out and in and out, but it comes back slightly differently, right? You have like the vertical stack tiles, the horizontal ones. You've got the brick style. You've got different grout options. You've got, marble subway tiles as opposed to just the plain white ones, different colors, different Zalige tiles, which are really kind of a precursor, to be honest, of the subway. Like they all come back eventually, but they come back slightly differently. Some things though, like I said in that video all those years ago, in my opinion, do date better than others. If it's incredibly trendy and it's really popular and it's incredibly impractical, that's one of my own things. I think that those trends are not long for this world. I actually did a recent video. I'm gonna plug to it. Sure, why not? Why not? If I don't plug my videos, who will? And it was about like this exact topic of just like how to spot a bad trend. And I go into detail there and I mention like there are things that I look for that determine if something's probably not long for this world. And then there's things that are just good design that just keep coming back. Like the Genere chairs, those chairs are really popular the last 5 years, but like honestly, like they're always just good. Like they're always just fine choices, but people just discovered them recently. So they might be in fashion, but they're not bad. Like they were never bad. Like certain things come in and out, but good design is forever. And color choices, there are some colors that become really instantly crazy, super popular. Again, the mustard yellow trend of like 2021, green like was everywhere. And then it became millennial green and everyone hated green. And it was like, green, there's nothing wrong with green. Like there's nothing wrong with green. The color, it just goes in and out depending on what's trendy and what's popular amongst designers and tastemakers, whatever the hell that is, right? So generally speaking, timeless is a thing. Some things are more timeless, but things go in and out of fashion. That is my opinion on the matter. matter. Doesn't mean trends are bad. It means you just need to be really discerning about what is garbage and not worth your time and money, or the landfill that it's going to end up in, and what is actually something that you're going to be comfortable with for years to come. Your personal style, things you really enjoy, things that are customly designed for your home, things that are personal, that is forever. And those things are truly timeless in my opinion. So yes, it is kind of real, although everything dates in the end, but good design lasts forever. So that's it for me today, guys. I hope you really enjoyed this video. I'm gonna leave you here. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna leave you here with the video that I did on timeless design. I haven't looked at it in 5 years. Maybe it sucks, but in my head, it was actually really good. So you should go check it out and watch it. Let me know in the comment section of that video what you think of it, because I think it was a fun one. I will see you all in that video. Thank you all. Okay, bye-bye.